All right. I usually clap and then I say it, but I just clapped early because of this different setup. I don't like it. I usually go into it the momentum of clap and then we go.
Okay.
But I'll just say music matters.
Okay. I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I know. That was the breakdown. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Music matters. Mr. Ayush.
What's up?
How are you, brother?
Dude, I'm fantastic.
Thank you for coming on. I much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor.
Of course, bro. I'm going to pour up my orange juice real quick. There's a thing on it. This is the first one that we've done with this new kind of setup. And it feels, I don't know, it instantly feels a bit more homey. I feel like I'm up and personal with you, dude.
Yeah. No, I like the orange juice.
Yeah.
Makes me feel at home.
Hell yeah. Are you a big orange juice drinker?
I'm a huge orange juice drinker.
Are you? We were actually guessing. We were buying the orange juice. Are you pulp or no pulp?
No pulp.
Aw, damn.
No pulp and calcium.
What do you mean? You can add calcium?
They have the no pulp calcium.
Oh, gotcha. How do they can take the calcium out of it?
I don't ask the questions. I just drink it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like a little bit of pulp. Like I'm like a. But I think I enjoy orange juice, but I think orange juice is more of an acquired taste for me. Like, I grew up on apple juice. I was always an apple juice drinker as a kid.
That wasn't me. I was always an orange juice fiend.
Yeah, man. So what you been up to, bro? What's new? How you been?
I've been good. Not much has been. I feel really new. I've just been kind of like working away and just trying to finish stuff.
Yeah.
I've just started a bunch of different things over the past year. So it's just like a big finishing game, and it's finishing, but it's a whole process of like staying motivated on working on the same stuff for so long. I feel
that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in like the rap because I think I'm a victim of that as well. I think one thing I do all the time is like I will just start a million different projects, or I'll begin doing something that I intend to do for a long period of time, and then I'll just stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think like one thing that's helped me a lot this year that I think I've got better at this year that I've really have not been good at in the past is like really stopping and like taking the steps that I need to do prior to actually doing the thing, to where like when I get to the place to like add it into the infrastructure of my life, I can like maintain it as a habit, like consistently, you know?
Yeah. No, I feel I've been a lot better with like walking away when things and not forcing it to like happen, and letting it take its natural course instead of being, because I feel when I first started like making things, especially music, I would set these deadlines for myself, like, oh, I gotta finish this song by like this week, or this next week, and like, but I'm not really in that like zone to finish the music or work on it. So I've been better at like moving away, and coming back to things when it's my time to come to them.
Yeah, I feel like art it's interesting. Art is one of the only things that I think like is kind of impossible to only view as a commodity and not with emotion as well. You know, so it's like as much as because like for example, if you were if you were a construction worker for a living, you can like do as much construction as like your body will allow you to do.
Sure,
like you can just do it every single day.
Right.
You know, at a certain point, like there is no like creation within it. Well, I mean, there is, I guess. I feel like I'm demeaning just construction workers right now, but like,
there is.
But it's like this kind of thing where it's like you can just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and I feel like music loses itself when you kind of commodify it in that way, and it becomes like a thing I'm gonna do every single day. You know, like, do you ever struggle? Because I know you work from home as well, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you ever struggle to like maintain music in your daily routine? Like, do you create every single day?
No, I definitely have difficulty sometimes. Like, I work, on my computer from home, so it's tough sometimes for me to be like super motivated to like close, the things I'm like coding in or working on.
Yeah.
And then open up Logic right away and then like sit at my computer for another, hour or 2 hours. But I don't find it hard to like do something musical every day. Whether practicing or like listening or mostly practicing, I guess. But I find it really hard to like get up in the day and be like, okay, today I'm gonna mix and I'm gonna like finish cleaning up this song.
Yeah,
that's a hard thing to like go back to. But I think when I'm getting really close, I feel a lot more motivated. but also a lot more burnout on the song.
Interesting.
So it's like I can almost see it being done, and I'm ready for it to being done, and I'm so excited to just like finish it and put it out. But there's this like pushback on that last. It's always that last like 5% pushback of like, oh, you could do this part better, or oh, you got time to work on it, you know. But
Yeah.
it's like I don't really feel like I have a lot of extra time to waste or to so then it makes me like lock in every day
Yeah.
in some sense or another.
You were like, I assume, like, I would not be surprised if you read this book, because you're probably the most well-read person I know. And I feel like I reference this book so much that it's like cliche at this point. But have you read the book The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield? Yeah, that's kind of what I was envisioning when you were talking about that. It's like that is that resistance, you know, like fighting back against that like force of like starting something.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like I feel like when I'm close to finishing a project, it's just excitement. But like the excitement is what finishes it. What starts it is the motivation, you know?
Yeah. No, Resistance, I read that book like last year, and I really pulled away from that like resistance, but also he had this analogy of every day he was like
The creative professional?
Well, just like the hunter. Like he was like saying, he was like making it like, oh, every day you're gonna get up and it's instinctual to go hunt or gather food.
Yeah.
But in this case, like creative ideas or just art. So I feel every day like I'm hungry to like make a new idea, and then if I don't make something, or if I don't, you know, if I do make something that's like not good or I'm not feeling it, I'm like hungrier the next day to like go out and do it.
Interesting.
Or gather. In my head, I connotate gathering to like practicing, and hunting to like making.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's like but it's not like a direct analogy. I feel, but because I feel there's two parts of it, because you might want to execute an idea at a certain level, but you're just not there yet. Interesting. So then it's like you got to practice to like be able to execute that idea.
It's kind of like balance. Dude, it's kind of like the concept of, I can't remember who I was talking to this about like recently. It's like the concept of your skill not being at the level of your taste. You know, it's like when you hear things in your head that you can't create yet. Like I feel like that way with Premiere Pro or like Photoshop or like things that I work in very frequently. Like it took me a long time to get to the place where like I could think of something in my brain, and then and even just with this like cinematography in general, and like even shooting and just filmmaking of all kinds. But like it took me a long time to get to the place where I was like, I can think of a concept or think of an idea, and I'm like, okay, I know how to do that. You know, it's like that point where you're controlling the software and the software is not controlling you. Yeah,
no, I feel that. It's super frustrating when it's not the case. And I feel for me in like the music making process, it's been like I can hear these things, and there's some certain aspects that I'm able to execute it on and hit the idea, but a lot of it I'm like learning so much. So like a lot of the music that I'm working on right now feels like an exploration of like trying to figure that out and like execute and like try to get to where I'm wanting, but like missing and hitting something else.
Do you think are you healthy in the way that you are like confident in how would I phrase this? I feel like very often it took me a long time to get to the place where I could like, because I think it's very important for me in my brain that like I feel like I achieve things every single day, and for a long time the learning didn't feel like achievement, because if I wasn't finishing a project or like creating something actively, I didn't necessarily feel like I had, you know, checked off that creative to-do list for that day. Like, do you think of like the experimentation and the lessons as like part of the accomplishment, or?
I mean, I think everything I make and everything I'm doing is like a constant work in progress. Like I've really only been like making music seriously like for like a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, but like most of my life I've just been playing and practicing. And a teacher told me, my like first piano teacher, was that like you shouldn't feel good with yourself if you didn't practice that day.
Interesting.
So I can see that same kind of feeling for like maybe you don't feel good if you didn't like make something or accomplish something or have a product. But because I was always like musician first, and like my product was my musicality, it's, as long as I was practicing something or learning something, I felt like I was accomplishing something.
Yeah.
Now it's changing, because now that I'm like more like product oriented, I guess, where it's like, okay, I want to have a demo, a song, a this, a mix, blah blah blah. It changes a little bit, and now it's like I want a little bit more. I can see like products and things like that come out.
Interesting.
But I'm still, if I practice, and I like learn something new, even if it's not with music, if I just learn something new, I'm pretty like happy with my day.
Yeah.
Because I just like want to learn new things as much as I can.
It's really weird. I don't know if like the correct way to think about and this is something that I've struggled with a lot. Like, I don't know if the correct way to think about creativity is in like a production value, but it's so weird. Like, for me personally, I feel like, because like my brain, I think, is so drawn to creativity, but it's also drawn to like, I guess, I don't know if production would be the right word, but like it's drawn to like finishing things and like getting to the end of things and like having there be a product. But like creativity and like musicianship and filmmaking and whatever it is, it's kind of like it's sort of like a lifelong journey. Like, there's not really an end to it, you know?
No.
Whereas like a traditional job, there could be like more of an end to, you know?
Yeah, or like a goal to reach. There's no goal with this. Like, there's no, like, obviously the goal maybe is to like make the best art and best things we can make, but that's never, you're never like gonna, there's no getting there. There's no like doing it. It's just the process. Yeah.
Does that feel weird working? Cause I mean, like, you work in a field that, like, cause you work in computer science, right?
Yeah.
So working in a field where like that is very product driven, and like there is a lot of like specific, like, I would imagine like numeric goals or like very specific like objectives. Is that weird living that double life, or like the objective structures in both of the things you do are so different?
I think it's really nice because I get to use two parts of my brain.
Yeah.
And like there's a part of me that like I feel really good if I like got a lot of work done in a day, and maybe I didn't get a ton of music done, or I just practiced or something, because it feels like I'm getting things done. But it gives me like two separate things for my brain to chew on, if that makes sense. Like, there is a lot of still creative thinking in my job, just maybe over long term, and like more like writing it down rather than like spontaneous music creation, which is like very like in a little bit more like in the moment. But I think it balances it out for me, like being able to do, because sometimes I don't really, I can get overly complicated with music, where I try to like make it more complex than it needs to be.
Interesting.
It's just like,
I know a lot of people who struggle with that,
and so I feel like having that job makes me like get all my complicated like clever, intelligent like thoughts and part of my brain like used, and then I can just like focus on the more emotional and like creative part of my brain to make music and write.
Interesting. That's such like a double life, dude. Yeah. But I sort of envy it. Like I don't know. Like, sometimes I feel like I use like one part of my brain all day, and it is like the creative part. And sometimes I wish I had more of that. Like, I don't know if analytical is the right word, but more of like, I guess, like, I don't even know what the word would be, but then more of like a tradition, like traditional thinking.
I usually just go left brain, right brain, even though it's like kind of reductive. But I mean, I think like also just like using your brain for like just like learning is that using that left brain. Like reading. That's why I love to read.
Yeah, dude, you're like more well read than anybody I think I've ever met.
I don't know. I read a lot now.
How do you like? Because this is something I think I was really good about, and then I moved to LA, and I feel like I've struggled with it since. Yeah. How do you fit reading into your day?
I read before I go to bed every night. Just like that's habit. And then,
do you feel like it still takes discipline to do, or is it just like second nature at this point?
I think the first week it took discipline. First 2 weeks, and then but it depends on the book. Like, you could be reading a really tough book. But the thing that I do, and people will hate me for this, is that I just read on my Kindle. But I like that because I can keep like 8 books on my Kindle at once, and then if I'm not feeling a book, I can like switch. Yeah. So I'm reading like 5 books at once. But
will you just keep it with you all day and just fit it in wherever?
Yeah, I keep it with me a lot. And then, see, the thing is, like, I know how much time I spend on my phone, and like if it's a really easy one for me, like, okay, like I just want to sit down and look at something. Yeah. Like, I'll try to look at my Kindle instead of it's like reading on my phone or doing something on my phone.
Interesting. Yeah.
But that's not like that's definitely a discipline thing. Like to be like conscious, like, oh shit, I don't need to, you know, go on my phone right now. I could just like read about sleep.
Yeah. I feel like I've fallen. It's interesting. Like there's like, it's so weird when you learn like your tendencies as a human being, and you learn like the things that like you struggle with discipline wise. Like I think I don't know, like recently I've picked up on like some things that like I've struggled with discipline wise specifically, and it's like it's so weird to like actively unlearn those things. But I think like the first step to realizing it is being like, yeah, like this is a problem in my life, and it's like negative. It's like negatively impacting me. But I think also I've become victim sometimes to being like too hard on myself with shit like that, you know. And it's like that, but then it's like, where's the balance? Like how much is too much of anything, or like how much is not enough, you know?
No, I feel like if I get mad at myself, like I'm not like gonna be like, oh dude, you spent like 2 hours on the phone in your day, like you wasted your day. Like I'm never gonna try to, because that just is not really helpful either. But it's helpful for me to like introduce something new that I can do instead.
Interesting.
Like reading, or maybe I'm like, oh, I could be doing this. I go for a walk. I go for a lot of walks because I'm just like, okay, I could sit around and like lay around, or I could just go for a walk and listen to music. But it is just like you're a sum of all your choices in a day.
Whoa. So, wow.
Like each little choice makes a lot of difference.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been thinking about the phrase discipline as a choice a lot lately.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think it is?
No.
Why not?
I think it's like a product of like what you're going through.
Interesting. Okay.
Because like it is like a muscle though, you know? Like, the more you make a decision in one way, the more you're like actually like wiring your neurons to make that decision again and again. Right? But if you're having like, it's not like you're like, you know, it's all, I feel also gets into like the waters of choice and what is like free choice, but without trying to like go there. I think it's just going to be like a product of what's going on in your life. And if you maybe, let's say, have built discipline in like a very good time in your life that's not hard to build discipline, it'll stay through the times where you might not be able to build discipline.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's definitely a product of like the time you're in. But do you think like maybe it's just more difficult to be disciplined in difficult times in your life?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I feel like it's never like a choice of someone like I would never look at someone who maybe like lacks discipline or and be like, oh, you're choosing to like put yourself in that position. It's like what you're exposed to, and
it's like a whole host of factors. What your goals
are, and like motivation I feel is a weird one because you never really know where it comes from. Like all the time you might be inspired by someone else, you might be motivated by like a long-term goal, but what's different between someone who has all that motivation and someone who doesn't have any motivation? I don't really know. Like what?
Maybe they haven't found the right goal.
Yeah, maybe they haven't found the right path or goal that like speaks to them. But I don't know what would be the other difference. Like
I've always said, like, I don't even know if I really believe in motivation in general. Like I kind of think there's like inspiration and then there's discipline, and motivation is this weird middle ground that we've kind of adopted to like describe a feeling. Because I think like inspiration is very powerful. Like we feel it palpably. Like we know what inspiration feels like when you're inspired by something, whether it's to create or whether it's to work harder or, you know, to be like somebody, or you're inspired by your parents or your friend or whatever. But like I think at least maybe this is subjective, but like for me, inspiration is like super, super palpable. Like I feel when I'm inspired.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actively feel like, obviously like there's like motivation comes and goes, but I think like if you're always, well, okay, I shouldn't say I don't believe in it, but I think like a better way to phrase that is like if you're always waiting for motivation, like I just don't know if it ever comes.
Yeah. Well, like, I think that's that's the Stephen Pressfield in you talking.
Yeah, I think you're
It's
right.
like if you wait around, like you can't just wait for motivation to come around. You have to like show up at the door every day.
Yeah.
I feel that's that's interesting. Like being kind of a hybrid of discipline and inspiration, because inspiration will like come whenever, like
Yeah.
it'll just happen, come across. But discipline will show up. Like if you're not there to catch the inspiration because you like haven't been coming every day
Yeah.
to like work on your art, then you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
My friend Estelle talks about this in a very interesting way. When I interviewed her, she talked about how like when she used to be in this band called Fast and Jackson, and she described something very interesting in this regard. And she was talking about how like when they would jam in a room together, like when there was an idea that revealed itself, it felt like a strike of lightning that they all saw, but only they saw.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think is kind of what inspiration can be like.
Yeah.
Like I think you sometimes have to like really, really sit down and like work through a project and like get through the really shitty parts and the barrier parts to like get to the thing that like makes the most sense to you,
Yeah. I mean, I feel if you're not present for it, then you're missing it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I feel that especially with like any kind of live art, because like you have to be there,
Yeah.
like any kind of live band you see, if you're like talking or not, like watching all the like musicians on stage, you're not like part of the moment. And that's like that moment's there, it's unique, it's gonna be only there.
That's why I think live music is the most powerful thing in the world.
I agree,
because it's like, dude, there is no like you could watch 1,000 concert videos, like you could have it described to you in a million different ways. If you were not there, you did not feel it.
Yeah.
And that is what I like. I mean, that's why I do that. Like that's why I throw all these shows. It's like that to me is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like I want to throw the kind of like I say this all the time. Like I want to throw the kind of shows where somebody could meet their best friend at or fall in love or decide they want to make music.
Yeah.
Because I think there are things that only can happen in that kind of setting.
I agree.
It's
that's like
so powerful.
Honestly, the reason why I'm like making music is because I've just always wanted to. I love playing live, and I've always wanted to play. I thought to myself, like, what would be the best situation where I could like create a situation where I could just like play guitar and just play like what I wanted to, and I was like, all right, well, that's probably like making good songs first, and like then making my way there. But that's like the end. If there's a goal with this, or like a goalpost right now with making music, it's to just play live and like make those moments, and just do like, I mean, you probably know, but like I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. Yeah. So like I love that shit. Like,
all live.
I love all that like improvisation live, like on the spot, like figuring out and finding the idea together, like with the audience and with the band. Yeah. So
where do you think that comes from? Like when do you remember a point where you realized that like the live aspect of music was what drew you to it? Like was there a certain concert moment, or were you going to shows, or like when do you think you found that?
Well, I was playing jazz throughout high school. And that's like obviously, so like there's a bunch of different things happening there, but it is very improvisational based and like live based, but that's all I really knew. And I think like leaving that world and leaving that space and like going to a lot of like Coachella or like those like mainstream shows, I guess, or like shows where they might have like a full backing track and then they're like singing over it, which are like still cool. I'm not no diss to that, but I was like, damn, I just want to like be in like a live, like I just want to watch musicians go crazy. And like, because the musicians push themselves, like the audience everyone just like there, everyone just cares about the music. There's nothing else like happening in people's minds if they're paying attention. So I think when I kind of came back to listening to like the Grateful Dead or listening to like live music again, I was just like, that's it, like that's the mission statement.
Isn't that present such an interesting thing? Like I've never resonated with people who say things like everybody's on their phone nowadays at concerts. I don't really feel that way. I feel like everybody's on their phone fucking all the time, and like I feel like shows or something, like I feel like people are on their phone like the least amount sometimes during shows.
That's
like
a good point.
Like
that's a good point.
I don't think, I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm not going to the right shows, but like I just don't feel like people are like head down on their phone super often at shows. I actually feel like people are more present there than like most other things. Like think about the like something like the bus.
I was literally thinking about the bus or the train right
now. Like I just took I just got an 8-hour train. I just literally like 3 hours ago got off an 8-hour train ride, and like the whole time everyone's just down at their phone. And when I say everyone, I mean me included. Like I'm the same. Well, I mean I was on my laptop, but same difference, like whatever. But it's like I feel like that is lack of presence, right? Whereas like live music feels like the most present you can be. Like it takes a really, really special kind of like, for lack of a better word, like stupid to like be watching a crazy band and just sit there like I really don't think I ever see that. Like
no, I feel like filming gets like a bad rap. Like filming at shows.
That's different. Yeah.
Because that's what some people think. Like why people are on their phones. Like everyone's on their phones filming. I don't really have that. I don't really have that big of a deal problem with.
Me neither.
I think film the music is yours to take. The music.
Remember
is,
it.
Remember it. Like that's. You don't know what that song or that show means to somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I agree. I think music and like comedy are like the two things that I think
interesting.
Are
Whoa.
Like these kind of weird spaces where people can like forget who they are and like interact with each other. Not forget who they are, but like not like no one's caring about your beliefs or any of that stuff.
Do you mean comedy in like a stand-up sense, or just
like a stand-up, like a stand-up comedy sense?
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of similarities between stand-up and live music.
Like what? I've never been to a stand-up show.
I've only been to a couple, but from what I've like seen, I mean the way that I feel, you feel when you're kind of in like, because it's both require like a lot of people paying attention to the single thing happening on stage, that is kind of like the artist sharing, like it's a lot of interaction, and the artists are sharing some kind of emotion, some kind of feeling. It's going to get a reaction. Yeah, it's going to give more or less of that. Like comedians and musicians are reacting live to the audience or reacting back to them. I think a good joke is like harmony in music, if that makes sense.
Whoa, okay.
Because if I hear something crazy, like a really cool musical moment, my first reaction is to start laughing, like out of joy.
Me too, dude.
I'm just like I giggle,
or like I giggle, or like I gasp, like I'm like
and I do the same kind of reaction if like I hear a crazy joke, or like a crazy setup.
Interesting.
So I look at like if people are setting up like a moment in music versus setting up a joke, like they're very similar, like modes of thought. I think
it's kind of like that call and response almost.
Yeah,
exactly. Like it's like, I mean, I'm only thinking of this song because it was, I was talking about this specific part of this specific song yesterday, but in the song the adults were talking about the Strokes. There's this really cool guitar passage in the back end of it, and I think like Alvin Hammond Jr. and I don't remember the other guitarist name of the Strokes. I think Julian's playing on that one.
Okay.
Maybe he is. I don't know. Or it's the other guy, whatever his name is. But anyway, the two guitars in the back half of it, they have this really cool like call and response thing where they're both kind of playing leads, but they're like going back and forth. Really sick. Yeah. And that kind of call and response in music is kind of similar to like what you're describing. I feel like it's like setting up a joke and then the reaction to the joke, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or if you see like, it's like you have two musicians on stage playing with each other and you have two comedians. They're kind of doing the same, going off each other for entertainment.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's so many differences, of course, but I think as like audience first like art forms, they're like the closest. Like I don't think of other performing art that's as similar. Maybe.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe dance in a way.
One thing that really just tripped me up that you said was like the way in which we're just. Well, I mean, you didn't say this, but I was just thinking about it when you were saying it, dude. Like, I don't know if it's possible to like laugh and not be present.
That's
like,
a good one.
You know, like I feel like when you're laughing, like I'm not thinking about anything else other than my laughter. Like in that moment, it's such a present action.
Right.
I've never thought about that before.
I haven't either.
You know, it's like because like you can like be happy and be like anxious thinking about the future,
Right.
or like upset about the past or whatever. But like when you're laughing, dude, like
Nothing else matters.
nothing else matters. Yeah.
That's cool, right? That's really cool.
That's really sick.
Because
Yeah.
there's all laughter is the best medicine. You know,
Mhm.
there's like if you just laugh and it's infectious and then you feel better. And I'm thinking like when would I laugh if I wasn't present? I would be like, it would be a fake laugh. If I
You
was
wouldn't
just
be
like,
laughing.
Ha 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 ha. It wouldn't be like an actual laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy.
That's cool.
And live music is kind of the same way. I don't know. Like I always describe it, and I'm sure you can relate to this. I think like most people who dedicate their life to music can relate to this. But like, I always say like, in a world where a lot of things feel like gray or black and white and dull and dreary, it's like music gives everything color.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a. It feels so visceral.
Mhm.
Like it feels so real.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the kind of thing I feel like I'll talk about this for the rest of my life, and I'll describe this to everybody in my life forever. But like, I don't know, to me personally, like music is like it's such a it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way it makes you feel is like it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like it. Like
Yeah.
nothing can make me feel like music can.
Yeah.
I've always said that. It's such a love, you know.
It is.
It's crazy.
It is. And it's like it's very universal. Which I think is that's the one thing that made music like transcends over comedy, maybe except for like like physical comedy, I guess, or like gags. Is just like how like languageless it is, and how it's just a different form of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think when it frees like you up to express so much more than what you can in words. But I still like I'm still like everything that music does. I just went down this comedy hole, and I was just like, oh my god, everything that music makes me feel like comedy can almost make me feel the same way. If there's like a
Interesting.
like a skilled comedian,
Yeah.
and, and more like in a explicit way, because it can like there's so much other relatability. But then I'm not really a huge fan of music comedy.
Like Bo Burnham type shit.
Like it's cool, or like Lonely Island
Uh-huh.
or stuff. Like I think it's funny and I think it's cool, but it's not like a music comedy combined makes this better thing.
Yeah,
You know, it's just
I
like,
agree.
It can get pulled apart by two sides and like, be like not good music and not funny.
Yeah.
Or you can do it kind of well or lean to one direction, but yeah, I like them separate.
I have two really specific thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Do you know who Karuk is?
No.
They're this artist that I saw play like 2 years ago at Make Out Music with G. Lene and Emmy Grace. And back then they were like super small and they blew up. Like they're huge now. They're doing national tours and shit. But they have one of the, I think to this day, one of the most interesting live sets I've ever seen. And it was the only time I've ever seen the music comedy thing work, and they both worked as well as each other.
That's cool.
That was like what I noted. Like
That's
it was
cool.
like, this is as funny as it is musically interesting.
That's cool.
You know, and it was such a powerful. Like I will never forget that show. It was so powerful because I wasn't ready for it either.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
It was so sick, dude. And the other thing was, go ahead.
No, you go for it.
The other thing is like, it's funny. I think another really really specific similarity that music and comedy have is how physically you can feel them.
Yeah.
Like I think there are art forms that you physically feel. Like I don't know if you like. I'm sure you relate to this too. But like, I physically feel music. Like I feel music very physically.
Yeah, same.
Like it's very like you very much can feel it. Like I don't know, when you're in the room, especially with live music, and something incredible is happening. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your heart. You feel it every part of you feels it. You know, like I don't know. For me, it's impossible to not like move or react.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I lead first for when it's like I make music, or I'm trying to figure out if something feels like it's literally does it feel good.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel good, then like that's it, you know. Then I'm just gonna move to the next idea. But we're all feeling like music is always felt before it's heard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like focus on the feeling, and if you can get the feeling out, then don't worry about whether your like lyrics are understood or your like drums are heard the way you wanted to heard.
Yeah.
Or, like, they caught that chord change you did. You know, like all of that doesn't matter when it's feeling first. Which sometimes I almost like I'm envious of people who don't make music, or maybe like
Interesting.
think about it as hard as I do, because I'm catching those and I'm sometimes forgetting about like feeling it
Yeah.
when I'm listening to other music, but also mine. I used to be too much like, oh my god, they did that one chord change over that. Oh, they like played like that kind of scale over this. Like,
Yeah.
that's so like. But then, by the time I'm like figuring out what's happening, or I'm like geeking out about the musical terms and stuff, it's gone, and the feeling's gone.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's hard for me to turn that off.
Yeah.
Which I would love to if I could, like, just listen. And sometimes I'm able to do that, but I feel like most of the time, no.
Yeah, no, it's hard, dude. I was talking to a friend about this recently, actually, when I was in the Bay, and my friend Eli always talks about how he's just like, because this guy is like music theory like genius,
Yeah.
and he always talks about how he thinks he ruined music for himself.
Yeah.
Because like this was really interesting when we were talking about this when we were in the Bay Area. He was saying how like there are, and this is an interesting concept that I think I don't understand music theory well enough to articulate, but like it's very interesting how like certain arrangements and specifically certain like chord progressions can like, whether they either like whether it be like a more dissonant chord progression or like a chord progression that just resolves better, whatever it is, or even like just like a, I guess you would say like, God, I wish I understood music theory better. Like if you did like a
Like you mapped it out in some way, or
yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to verbalize this. Let's just call it chord progression A. For the sake of the conversation, chord progression A can like evoke a very specific emotion based on like the way that like a certain 3 or 4 chord progression is like resolving into itself, right?
Sure.
So it's like he was explaining, this is so over my head, dude. Like he was explaining to me how like there are certain styles of progressions that like will evoke certain emotions, right?
Sure.
So if you end on like I think it's like you would understand this way better than I would, but I think he said it's a minor fifth. If you end on like a minor fifth, that is like generally a more melancholy like chord, like a ending to a chord progression.
Sure.
Like it evokes a certain emotion.
Sure.
So he was saying now, like in live time, he will actively listen to a song for the first time, or be at like at a show, and like when he hears someone playing a certain chord progression, he can predict the next chord and say like, this is going to make me feel happy before they play the chord.
Interesting.
Or he'll say like, or he can be like, like it's super like meta, but like
that's definitely like, yeah, it makes it hard to like appreciate the music.
Yeah,
like
dude.
Thinking super fast. Yeah, I mean, music has a lot of patterns.
Yeah.
And a lot of rules and a lot of emotions that it invokes. I don't think anything like inherently invokes a certain emotion. I think we just attribute meaning to those chord progressions or to those things.
That makes more sense.
But that's why like I also think it's like important to like challenge those. And bring in new melodies or rhythms and ideas that maybe aren't as don't have as much like baggage.
Yeah.
But also it's cool to recontextualize things too. So I used to be so much of a rule follower with music, like and I still am to a degree. It's hard for me to like fully remove that. But the more I've like made and also worked with other people who maybe don't come from as like trained as like a background as I have, it's like liberating to see someone like do something that in my head's like red flag, in terms of music, or I'm like, oh, you can't do that.
Like what kind of thing?
I don't know, like maybe like not resolving something, or like not having an even chord progression, or like putting like having something repeat in like a different, not like going like all 8 bars, like going like 6 bars, 8 bars, 6 bars, like some just like whatever feels right. So it's been liberating trying to like remove those and unlearn, and try to just like take new ideas instead of the same ones that have been recycled. It's hard to not recycle ideas. You're always recycling as an artist. But because all of us who are making music now have such crazy access to genre and style, it's like there's so much for me to pull from and reach from, that maybe is from my own ancestral history, or also from my childhood or stuff that like I had a phase in like college or high school about, you know, that like I can bring in. So yeah, trying to just like recontextualize things I think is really important, because there's so many melodies that like you'll be like, oh, that points to that thing, or that's like that kind of feeling, or that's like that kind of feeling, and those kind of, I just hate those, not hate's strong word, I just don't like those rules or guidelines.
They sort of, I feel like they exist so you can break them.
Yeah, but they can be stifling, like especially if you grow up like learning them, I feel, for so long.
Interesting.
It's hard. Because when I wasn't, before I really like even wanted to make music, I was just like playing jazz and playing saxophone. There was like, it was very right or wrong, if that made sense in my head. Yeah. Like there was like, where there's this one style of jazz that's the best. This is what we all want to do. You know, it's like there's this one idea that's like, these are like the best types of ideas or whatever. And I had a huge like jazz musician ego complex in high school, I feel, of just like being like, oh, other music is like inferior to like Ornithology by Charlie Parker or something. You know, it's like that's the way I would, and that I had to like completely unlearn. Because one, I couldn't really get there, and I would get really frustrated, like that, like
because almost nobody can. Yeah,
because it's so, I mean, it's so hard, and
there's only one Charlie Parker.
Like I just couldn't like sit down and practice like bebop or like get really there. So it took, you know, lots of other work, but also coming to like reapproaching music with guitar to break that down. And, like, do it how I hear it rather than what's been told to me. That's
such an interesting idea. Do you think that is a knock to, like, not say you were knocking, but I'm saying, like, do you think that's something that could be attributed as part of musical education that might be bad? Like, do you think we should only teach music educationally through a theoretical lens and through a that that very rigid specific lens that's like based in music theory, or do you think we should also, like, should music feeling be like
I've had so many conversations about this with my friends who have like, gone to music school, or me who hasn't, and like I from all my music education, it's been wonderful, and I can't even, you know, I'm who I am musically because of that today. But there needs, it depends on the person. Like, I also have to realize, like, I'm a certain type of person that needs to express myself in a certain way. And like, I'm not someone writing orchestra charts. If I was that, like, for sure I need to go to music school and learn and like study in that way. But I'm someone that like wanted to just like learn what I wanted to learn, and play what I wanted to play, and the environment that I was in wasn't extremely conducive for that. But I learned a lot, and I studied a lot, and I, like, you know, got some amount of skill under my fingers, or understanding. But I think it depends. Like, there just needs to be a creative aspect, you know? I only had like 1 or 2 opportunities in my life to like, where I was asked to write something. I was never really asked to like write. It was always to like learn and to like play back and to improvise, of course, and to like be a good player. But my writing skills were never exercised or asked to. So
that's so fascinating.
I think that needs to be pushed more.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. That same friend I was telling you about in the Bay Area, we had a very interesting conversation in the Bay. But we were talking about like the differences in the way that we perceive music and why we are drawn to it in certain ways. And it's interesting to verbalize those things, because I don't know if you, at least me, I don't know how often I like consciously think about them and consider them, but I was thinking about, I'm like, okay, what am I like really, really, really drawn to, right? And it really is storytelling for me. And I think a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but it's like, I almost find storytelling more impressive because there's no bounds at which it can be constrained, opposed to like theoretical understanding of music and like just musicality in general, because it's like at a certain point, like, you can study to like understand the ins and outs of music theory. You can study to understand the ins and outs of a certain musical concept, right? Whereas storytelling can only come from experience. So it's endless. There are a million, 100 bajillion stories to be told. There are only what 12 tones.
Yeah, there's only, but I feel you can tell as many stories as you want with that, you know, because like that's not to say like an instrumental artist couldn't tell like a saga or like a really big story.
True.
But I agree. It really is arranging like a kind of, you know, moving piece that draws you in or has something interesting or tells you something. I agree. Storytelling is like, you know, the kind of forefront of a lot of this, and like any kind of art, you're trying to tell something. What was I gonna say? I feel like when you think about what kind of music you want to listen to at a certain moment, it's interesting, like next time you do it, to just like observe
like your tendencies.
Tendencies. What are the metrics you're thinking of?
Interesting.
Like, you're taking account of your emotional state. You're taking account of maybe what you're doing. You're taking into account like maybe what you've been listening to, or the sun, or the environment. Like, it's this kind of, I see it as like, it's like this kind of filter. You're taking in all this like outside perceptual intake, and out comes like a playlist or a song.
Wow.
So it's like, what is your metric? Maybe it's like you're resonating to a story, or resonating to a part of it. You want to feel a certain way. I don't know. I feel it's different for everyone. That's why I'm very curious about like music selection process.
Yeah.
Like even my own, like what would make me want to pick listening to like 50s jazz versus like listening to like Chief Keef or something like while I'm cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Like what am I picking between?
I feel like there are common threads amongst everything we listen to, though, to a certain point. Like I think, well, maybe there's not. I don't know, but like I think me personally, like I think I've realized this recently. Like I think because I think of music through such like a storytelling lens, I think so often, and I'm so drawn to like the more visual aspect of music. I mean, that's obvious. Like what I do for a living is like help it, hear people's stories and like, make things about musicians and shit. So like very visual, right? But like I find that like the music that sticks with me for years and years and years are the musicians that I can make into characters in my head. Yeah. That then I see a part of myself in. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, totally. I think we all do that, and but I think that's like the indicators. Like, do we see ourselves in that person, or in whatever's being said or sung, or in the character of the song? Like, one thing I love about Grateful Dead songs is there's all these characters in them. It's not like the people singing about their own lives all the time. It's probably influenced, but it feels like they're like books. Yeah. And like I love that about, like, that's my favorite part about writing, is like trying to take, obviously everything I write about is going to be something I went through, or I was inspired by, or experienced, but because I read like a lot of my influence like comes from books, or like those kind of stories, because that teaches me how to like craft a story, and how to write, like a flow in the end. But yeah.
Can I ask you what books you think have impacted the way you look at the world more than any other ones? Like if you had to pick a few that like really stick out and like change things for you, what would they be?
Well, off the project that I'm like working on right now, it's super science fiction inspired, because that's what I was reading like post college and end of college, just like a lot of science fiction. I really like Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah. One of my favorite books by him is Sirens of Titan. It's just
I've never heard of that.
It's really weird.
I love Slaughterhouse-Five.
Everyone reads Slaughterhouse-Five because I'm in school, and like that's a great book.
I actually didn't read it in school. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't?
I read it in college. I think when I was in college for like half a year.
Okay. Nice. No, it's a great book. I love a lot of his writing. That's also a great science fiction book. But then also The Three-Body Problem is like one of my favorite books of all time. Because I don't know, I just like the way that though they can like you create these alternate universes, kind of like Black Mirror-ish too, that like highlight something in ours. So then a lot of the music, I mean, a lot of the music that I was making at that time and that I'm trying to finish up right now has that like sci-fi undertone, I feel, of like kind of being very spacey and space themed, but also in like they're like these like I'm creating spaces and universes that are part of me, but like it's like a what if hypothetical, because I feel science fiction will be like, okay, what if like we could read people's thoughts, imagine that world, and then they would write a book about that, or like what if aliens came, what would actually happen, and as try to be as like science based and real as possible. So a lot of the music feels like a what if.
Interesting.
What if that, and then down that kind of road.
Yeah.
But yeah, books like how I feel help me understand like the story I want to write about, or they contextualize my life in a story. Like after I read a book, I'll start, you start narrating. Well, I don't know. People, I'm interested in people who have like monologues and don't have monologues, but my shit always be running, and my shit fucking like, talking like I'm in a book sometimes. Like, oh, the I can't even do that shit, but like the light blue sky was like the clouds speckled throughout, Like, I'll start reading like that, and it just depends on who I've been reading like recently.
Yeah. You inspire me to want to like get better about reading, dude. Like I'm glad. I feel like every time we talk, I want to, because I used to be so good about it. I feel like, and I don't know what changed, man. Maybe I'm just not as disciplined as I used to be with it. I don't know. Is it a discipline? Because like I do love it. I genuinely love it.
Habit thing, like.
But that's the weird thing. It's like it's so. I think in a world where like we're so like tied to like this instant gratification bullshit. It's like. Getting the story in a secondhand way is so much more gratifying. Like getting it in a way that isn't like conducive to like instant gratification. It's so much like it feels so much better. But like it is a little bit more taxing. It takes a little bit more out of you.
I mean, you gotta sit in that universe for like months, maybe however long you take to read, which lets you digest a lot more. It's like why I love that people are still making like full LPs and albums, because like it's like you can't consume music in like short bits with getting like the whole picture, whole story, or like and even if you're like releasing, I feel like a really great song, it's really cool to have like context, like of like setting the universe, whatever. So like I feel like I tried to do that with the project I'm working on, but it's hard. It's also me just learning and figuring out how to like, tell kind of a bigger story.
I think that's so cool that's one thing that's so cool about science fiction too. It's like there can be stories, and actually like this is a world that, like I haven't gotten to a lot, but I've heard that this is very true with anime as well, which is interesting. But like one thing I think is really cool about science fiction is like the way in which it can be a story about like a theoretical world, or a world that may or may not exist in the future or the past or whatever. It's like it's still a story, right? It's like an untrue story, but the themes can be rooted in such real things, like the themes and the concepts that like, and even the stories that these characters are going through can be rooted in like reality and like things that we actually can relate to as like regular people. It's like if character X, even if they're like in a spaceship fighting somebody, right, they might have to come to terms with like some of their very specific insecurities, and like that's something that we all can relate to.
That's real. No, I feel, I mean, that's what's what any stories like music, like most of us are not feeling what, or like resonating with the exact lifestyles that a lot of artists have, maybe per se, but we resonate with those same emotions that they have, the same like feelings that they have.
That's super well said. Wow.
And I mean, with any kind of thing, like I think anime is a cool one and books are a cool one, where like you're not really gonna see yourself in, you're not like a space like crime fighting bounty hunter, but you are like insecure about like your friendship with someone maybe, and it's like someone might be in a show. But I mean that's the same thing with like almost like anything. Like I feel movies, TV shows, books, art, comic books, whatever, like we're all just trying to connect and see ourselves in other people, and other people are trying to like share those things too.
Yeah.
So I feel it's like important to like consume that art however that artist intended,
Yeah.
in order just to be able to like see that and feel that.
Yeah, I feel like a similar concept can be like, for example, like if I'm listening to a Black Flag song, or I'm listening to like a Sex Pistols song, or like some, or a Suicidal Tendencies song, like a very like specific hardcore song or punk song that's talking about like a very specific political theme that like might have happened in a time like when I was 3, and like I don't know very much about it at all. I might not understand or resonate the political like thing that they're speaking about, but I resonate with the emotion, the anger, like the desire for something to be better. It's like it's the emotion you resonate with, not necessarily the story.
I also feel like books are timeless sometimes. Like like you can like read like old stories. It's the same stories. I mean, it's like mythology, right? And like religion, it's like a lot of mythology or stories that we still resonate with because we still face those internal struggles or demons or whatever, like all the problems like our ancestors were facing like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago or whatever, are like the same that we're just feeling. We're just in a different environment, but our brains are the same. Our brain chemistry, I'm assuming, is the same. Our social interactions, like, generally the same. Just the modes are changing, and
Isn't that a weird thought that, like, over time, like, fundamental... Because, like, this is an interesting idea, right? Like, when we were hunter-gatherers, for example, right? Let's say, like, our problem then was, like, feeling like a neighboring tribe, or, like, a neighboring group of people, like, maybe, like, you felt inferior to them in the way in which you foraged or whatever. Your foraging methods. And it's like now, like, you could just say the same thing about like bro's got more likes than me, or like bro's got 1,000 monthly listeners, you know what I mean? It's so weird, dude.
No,
like
it is.
It's different. It's like different context. Like different context to the same like.
They're the same things, Like we don't want to be outcasted. Before, is because we would starve because we wouldn't get food. Now those like mechanisms for why we don't want to be outcasted are still there, but like in a different way. So if someone says something like maybe mean to you or something, like you'll take it like, oh my god, like super personally. But it's never really like that. These are just like outdated. We have so many outdated mental mechanisms in our head.
Interesting.
I feel like anxiety to a degree. Not anxiety is that outdated, but it's not the same life or death situations 9 times out of 10.
No, dude.
Like, your social anxiety is like maybe valid for like, it's not to invalidate anyone's like anxiety, but it is like the way your mind's reacting. It's like not actually gonna help, or it's not accurate of what the situation is.
It's like we're pumped full of this like cocktail of social media influence and like our phones and like people around us and like our social circles and whatever. But like those are the same like primal issues that like used to be like us not eating or like, us not reproducing,
Right. And I feel like as we just see like the same kind of like societal kind of like hierarchy / like social structures that just like appear in different forms. But it's the same thing. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday, about how like every city has their kind of like annoying like classist people, like in LA it might be a lot of the
Oakland Hills
influencer type thing. Like New York's gonna be like finance bros, or like Wall Street, like I don't know, SF's gonna be tech, but it just reappears depending on where you are and what people think is popping, like what people are doing.
That is interesting. Wow. To switch gears a little bit. One thing I want to talk to you about was I think your path in music is very interesting, and correct me if I'm like wrong with kind of like the way it's gone, but just being your friend and you explaining to me in the past, like, so my understanding is like, you grew up like playing jazz music, into music in a more educational place, and then you kind of went to college, still played casually, like it was still something you wanted to do, and then like, I'm wrong?
I didn't even play in college.
Oh, you didn't play at all?
For first year, no.
Oh, okay.
I stopped. I quit.
Okay, so pick it up from there then.
I quit freshman year. I took my saxophone. I just didn't want to go out to play with anyone.
Why?
Because I just felt like I was bad at saxophone, and then I also just didn't have the, like, I didn't want to practice in my dorm, and I just, the only way part of music for me was like to play jazz, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. Because I played piano before I played saxophone in classical training, so it wasn't jazz, it was just like, it was a little bit even more like strict. I mean,
yeah,
not saying jazz is strict, but just like educationally confining. I picked up guitar like kind of sophomore year. I just like
high school?
No,
of college.
Because after my first year of not playing any music, it was kind of nice though, because I was just a music consumer. Like I was just listening to music, and I was
still
like,
super into it.
Yeah, I was just like, you know, someone who's a big fan.
Gotcha.
And I kind of just like left music behind, which is crazy. Like thinking about now. But then I found my dad's guitar, because I started listening to like older music again, and just like listening to like Led Zeppelin and Grateful Dead and kind of all the 60s stuff, and just I guess educating myself on that kind of music. And I thought, okay, like this can't be that hard to play in guitar, like, so let me just like try to learn it. So I kind of just played like how most people would play guitar, which is like you learn some songs on YouTube, you learn some tabs,
yeah,
do some shit. But then COVID hit, and that was kind of like my like blessing in disguise, because I just got like an electric guitar, and I practiced like 7-8 hours a day.
Damn. That was like your COVID thing.
Yeah, that was what kept me sane. Was like just practicing. I was like, okay, I might as well try to get good.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I've never practiced that hard in my life.
Really? Not even when you were like playing jazz in school?
No, I would practice like pretty casually. Because I was doing other things. I was doing like parkour and like
parkour.
Yeah,
that's
like,
sick.
Like, you know, school and like hanging out and being a high schooler. Like before I started, I mean, like parkour was like what I wanted to do.
What?
Yeah.
What's that? Okay, we'll go back to that. Yeah,
we'll table that.
Yeah, we'll circle back.
That's a whole different conversation.
We'll circle back to the parkour.
But yeah, I just started playing guitar because I wanted to just play and learn. And then I thought, okay, it would be cool to be like in a Grateful Dead cover band and play at a bar. That was all I wanted to do. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, that would be sick. So I just kept learning to do that and just practicing to be a player. And then everything changed though, or like what I wanted to do was after I like started hanging out with Teo.
Shout out to Teo.
Shout out to teo'ma.
Teo'ma, baby.
But he's a fucking incredible producer, and I would just go.
You guys met in college?
Met in college.
Okay.
We're both cognitive science
Gotcha.
majors. We kind of knew of each other, but like weren't really like friends.
At Davis, right?
At Davis. And then
go Aggies.
Yeah, go Ags. For real. But yeah, I started producing with him, as then I just would like play guitar while he would do everything. And I would just watch him, and like to me, if for some reason making music seems so far off, I just never even thought about it. Like I wasn't even like, in my head I was like, oh, maybe it'd be fun to write something, but then I was like, oh, you can't, you know, I'll just shut myself down really fast.
Wow.
And just like, oh no, you're just a guitar player. I wasn't even playing saxophone at then. I really like started playing saxophone again after college, really.
Yeah.
And then piano, and then everything, and like it all kind of like coalesced.
It came
like,
back.
I was like, oh shit, I'm like kind of a multi-instrumentalist now. But anyways, I was just making music with Teo, and I was like, this is really fun, and actually like not really hard. Like I thought it was like super difficult for some reason, even though like I had all the musical background to like do it. And yeah, one thing led to another. I visited LA, and then I was like, oh shit, like I should probably move to LA. That'll be fun to do music. I still really didn't want to pursue it like that. Like I just was thinking of making like samples, and I was like, maybe that'll be cool to get placed.
I remember you coming down here not knowing if you were gonna move here.
Yeah. I literally came here and I was just like meeting a bunch of people, and I had a couple sessions that like made me believe that I could do it. I like made some new songs that I just didn't know I could make. And yeah, I moved down. I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a producer. Like, that sounds cool. Like, I could do that. And because like the samples I was making, they were just like, I was like, these are so good. Like, I don't want to like just send these off to random people.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just like save them for myself. So they're like homies.
Yeah.
So then from samples, it was just producing. And then after producing for not even that long, to be honest, I still am a producer. I was like, damn, I kind of just like want to release stuff and like not like wait on people or like send out things that I think are fire and then someone records on it and then like it just doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Like that's all part of the process, but I was like, damn, maybe I should make stuff. And then like here I am like now trying to do it. It's just one thing led to another. I really never would have expected to be in this position.
Yeah.
Even doing this. So I just feel grateful that like I'm even here.
You know. That's how did you meet Teo in college?
Through our homie Jack. He was playing drums and still plays drums. And it was like kind of coming out of COVID and I just like wanted to play music with people. So I would just go to his house. He had this little basement. We called it the Blue Pill. It was covered with blue rags. The Blue Pill. And me and Jack would play for like a couple hours every week almost, or every other week. And then he just kind of like, Teo would be there too. And we would just we weren't really like super close at first, but then the more kind of sessions, the more we talked to each other and like hung out, the more we just like started not only just like aligning as friends, but also super creatively aligning. We're like have some very similar tastes, we felt. And we filled in each other's like gaps. Like I could not produce or make drums for the life of me, you know? And like but I could play guitar really well. So and now it's really cool to see, because I live with him and been making music for them for the past year and by myself, and it's super cool to see him grow really well and really like a lot in, you know, playing instruments, and me grow in the production kind of aspect. And now we're like able to just like switch and do both.
Did you think it just wasn't a practical thing for you to do, or like you just didn't have interest in it, or like why, if you loved it so much, do you think the thought was never like, I want to?
I just didn't know anyone who did that. I didn't know anyone who produced. I didn't know anyone who like made music seriously. I tried when I was like 14, 13 to like make beats and rap. Nice. But like my beats were horrible and like I couldn't rap for shit. And I was like, okay, this is like way harder than I thought it was gonna be, you know? Like I thought I was just gonna like start like spinning and like it would be up, you know? Like,
we out of here.
Just, like be going. But I remember just like being like, damn, I hate the way my voice sounds. Oh, like I can't make this. And I was 14, so I wasn't really like doing it. But I think I always thought artists had something I didn't.
Wow.
Like, I always thought there was something that they could tap into that
that's
I
a great. Wow, I know exactly what you mean. Wow.
So I always shut myself down whenever the thought came. I made this like super cool like psychedelic indie track when I was in like sophomore year of high school, like just with my Mac speaker and like acoustic guitar. But then I just like shat on it. I was just like, oh, this sucks. Actually, like you're not actually doing this. So I don't know. I guess it takes confidence, but I think it really just like I also saw a lot of like after coming here and seeing a lot of people do it, it just gave me a lot more confidence, because I was like, okay, these people are doing it and
they don't seem like a god.
And like don't seem like God, or like they don't know how to play instruments and they're still able to like manage and put together what they want to say. Like so I'm like, okay, I can do it, you know? Like, I just gotta start and try. I
know that feeling of like thinking something is way harder than it really is before giving it a fair shot. I remember like, you know, when I wanted to throw a show. I wanted to throw a concert since I was a kid. Since I was like really young. So I was awesome. Like 16, 17, maybe like 15. But like, I just thought it was like in my head, for whatever reason, I assumed it was the most complicated, difficult thing ever. Like I assumed it was so hard.
That's that resistance speaking.
Exactly. Like I assumed it was so hard and complicated and there were so many hoops to jump through. And then I did it And I was like, this is really just like a series of phone calls and emails.
Yeah.
That's all it is, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just like, it's so much more tangible, makes so much more sense than like I originally had thought. Like, I don't know what I even thought it was. Like,
yeah, same.
Like,
same.
you know, like there's just like, there's this weird thing. You like kind of what you said. I think you verbalized it perfectly. It's like you thought that they had something that you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Which is a crazy thing to think because we all kind of have everything we need already in us. But it's just like a little step. I mean, even now, if I think about like, I'm still super new, you know, like I think about like what like music might look for me in like a year or 2 years or even like down the future, and I'm like super overwhelmed and I don't think I can do it, you know. Like if I think about like playing, like dreams I have of playing like a show and a tour or like playing at a festival or something, I'm still just like, oh shit, you can't do that, like you don't really,
Yeah.
you're not there. But then from what I'm doing right now, I didn't think I could do that a year ago,
Dude, yeah.
so it's just like, okay, like baby steps. What's the next step for me is like to do this, and then the next step is for me to do this, and then it just builds on each other, and you're like, soon enough, like you're living everything you wanted to have, like in terms of like opportunities / like how easy it is for you to like get like do it and get into that creative zone. It's just, it gets easier and easier, but you just have to start. Like you just got to take the first step.
I feel like with that, yeah, exactly. Like the first step is always the hardest.
So hard.
I feel like what that looks like on a daily basis is just forward motion.
Yeah.
It's just like in some way, shape, or form, like walking. Just like if it's half a crawl, you know, if it's like a side step or whatever it is, but like that forward motion is, I think, is everything.
Yeah, you just gotta try, because I feel like even now, there'll be like songs I'll have that I write, and I really want it to be good, so I just like procrastinate recording it.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not gonna get it first try. Like I know it's gonna take me like 3 sessions maybe to get it. Or like, yeah, but you just have to start, and then you like, you know, you figure out, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work, whatever. Same thing with like, I feel making content or like promoting yourself or all this stuff, like it's all trial and error. You're not gonna get it right first try, like, and like no one does. So like, don't worry about like nailing it first try or nailing it. Like it takes iterations, takes failure.
Yeah. I also don't know if there is a right way to do it.
Sure.
Like I think like my conception of right for so long was like, I need my TikToks to go viral. Like I need my musician interviews to get 100,000 views each, or like I need to, you know, throw a show at Bill Graham. Like those were like my conceptions of success, and only when I sort of moved the goalpost and developed new metrics did I find fulfillment. I think, you know,
that's
like
what it's about, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. Like I feel like I lose that shit all the time, like especially in like trying to like, you know, have people listen or stream or talk about it or like engage. It's like, that's at the end of the day not why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like to connect and to fulfill myself and others around me. But like, it's, you lose sight of that so quick.
It's so hard, dude.
It's like the tough. That's why it's like I don't know. I'm trying to like do other things that like, because music's always, I know music's not going to be fulfilling for the rest of my life. You know, like there's gonna be times where it's really fulfilling and times where it's not fulfilling. And like, you can't have, you know, everything be only music fulfillment, you know. Like it's important to have other types of fulfillment, whether that's, you know, books or exercise or other hobbies or activities or people, friendships, relationships.
This just got me thinking about like how immature my mindset was, I think, as a kid for so long about this shit, dude. Because it's like, it's so, I don't know, dude. I think this is interesting, but I think like I'm somebody who like severely became, I don't think victim's the right word, but I definitely fell victim to the internet mindset culture, and like I think I definitely fell into this place for a long time where I was just like, you need to be punching the shit out of your goals every single day or else you're a worthless human being, and like life is meant to be conquered, and like life is meant to be like, you know, murdered, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like I don't know. I began to like commodify myself,
100%.
where it's like you make yourself into a product,
Yeah.
which is so silly.
You're worth how much you put out and do.
Yeah.
But that's like how most of us operate, you know, even as like in jobs. It's like, how much money are you making? Like, who are you hanging out with? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, where are you going for vacation? You know,
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to end up like that, or end up in a situation where I'm like, but, you know, I also don't even want to like value myself for like things that I do, you know? Like, I don't value myself because I'm a musician. I value myself because of my like innate traits, whether that be like
Wow. Yeah.
kindness or honesty or whatever. Like I like, those are like who I am. Those are my values. Where like, man, this is just because I've had times where I identified with a certain skill or talent or trade or whatever so much, and it gave me a lot of fulfillment and joy. But as soon as that left, I felt like I lost a huge part of myself.
Wow.
Which I didn't want to like feel again, because like I could break my hands tomorrow, you know, and then boom, out of a job, boom, no more like playing instruments. But those things,
Still you.
I'm still me. Like that doesn't like make up who I am.
Interesting. Wow.
But we're set up to like,
Feel
what
that
do you
way.
do?
Yeah.
Who are you? You know, like people always, even I mean, especially family, my family, it's like a lot of people ask like, you know, like, what are you doing for work? Like, or like, what are you doing? That's such a loaded question that like we always ask. It's like, well, no, it's like even a how are you? I forget where I heard this, but there's something like when people ask like, what do you do in like France or something, and someone gave an answer of like, oh, I breathe and I like
I eat.
Which is like, I'm never gonna answer that, because that's such a cocky way to answer. Like, oh, I breathe, eat, and shit. What do you do?
Yeah.
I was like, but you know, I
okay,
get,
bro.
yeah, literally. But I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
It's very like reductionist to like, it's like, what is your worth?
So somebody who I value their mindset a lot, and I think I've learned a lot from them. They once told me, "Do you want to work to live, or do you want to live to work?" And I think that sticks with me a lot, and I think I struggle with it, and I try to come to terms with it, and I don't know if there's a balance to be had, and it troubles me a lot. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the luckiest man in the world to make money off making stupid ass videos about musicians.
Yeah.
That's like, and that makes me want to like cry. Like,
yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm the luckiest person in the world.
Yeah.
And I love that so much that I get so much purpose from it, and I derive so much from it that like it sometimes consumes me and becomes me and becomes who I am. So then, but I do love it. So then the question becomes, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. The question becomes like, am I working to live? And if I am, is that okay? If I love my work, or, but I do also resonate with what you were just saying, how like who I am is not what I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all still important to love your work, of course. Like, I think you should be like passionate about what you're doing, because that's like fulfilling. It's not fulfilling to like do something you hate or do something that's like mindless or boring. But like I just think it's dangerous for me, but you know, just in general, to like put all your eggs in like what you do, or like what consumes you, because you know, most of us who are here pursuing some sort of dream or some sort of goal, like that consumes us. That's like when we think about 24/7 and we're doing 24/7, but that's not to say like that's the only reason we're alive or just like we're like happy or fulfilled, because it's like that's not permanent. You're always gonna, and different things are gonna be in phase, you know, like at some point you might get more fulfillment from like sitting on a park bench, you know. You might be at that point in your life where it's like you gotta sit at a park bench, watch people walk by, and you're fulfilled. And there's like, and that might be hard to lose the grind mindset that you had in your 20s, 30s, or whatever. So yeah, that's all I say for that. It's because I used to do a lot of different like, I've done a lot of different hobbies in my life / like, yeah, just weird like pursuits, and I've identified with a lot of them. I feel to like an unhealthy degree because I was good at them, or that's like what I did only. So whenever I like had to shift, it was always like way harder than it needed to be. Like it was way harder to like.
Wow. That
stop.
Yeah.
It was like it was like I had a really hard time. Like I don't really do parkour that much anymore. But I had a really hard time coming to terms with that, like because I just identified with it so heavily. That was like who I was. I was that person, you know.
Do you think you'd feel the same way if you stopped doing music?
100%. I'm not, but like I've also, the cool thing I think about where I'm at with music now is I don't identify as like a guitar player or a saxophone player or a bass player or a piano player or a producer or an artist. I just kind of identify as like a musically inclined human, and like whatever, you know, I'll be inclined to do one thing or not. Like maybe that's work on my guitar playing or be like a shredder, or maybe that's like focus on saxophone, maybe that's rapping, maybe that's singing, maybe that's mixing, whatever. So yes and no. Like I'll definitely be pretty like if I actually like broke all my fingers or some shit, or I couldn't use them, I still probably make music in some way. Like I'd maybe like sing something or still try to produce in some way or whatever. But that's not like the end of me, you know. I'll still be doing what I'm doing. I'll figure out something else.
It's kind of a really scary thought.
It is.
Like when you just said like, if I had, or like when you said like when I had a hard time coming to terms like not doing parkour anymore. I don't know if I'd be able to stop doing Above the Bridge. Like, and maybe I should get to a place where I could be okay stopping.
I don't think like you need to get to any place, you know, because like you don't need to change anywhere where you feel. Yeah. It's just like, if anything, it's something just to be grateful of. Like I think like I'm super grateful. I'm healthy and I'm able to do everything I'm able to do. So that just like it's like a moment of gratitude for me. Like that like I'm doing it right now and I am able to do it. So because I also know it's not gonna last forever, you know.
Yeah. Do you think it took you time to get to that place where you thought of what you're doing in a whole and healthy way and it was able to exist outside of you? Did you ever feel an inclination to let it be all consuming? And if so, how did you fight it?
I feel like it's still all consuming. Yeah. You know, like it's not like I have control or I'm like very like present and zen with like the way I view my art and myself and how those relate. But it's just like I'm grateful for things that I'm able to do every day, and I just try to remind myself that when I'm feeling like too consumed and down about it, like if I'm feeling like oh my god, what am I doing, why am I being an artist, why am I making music, this is too much, blah blah blah, I just like go back like, okay, you're able to do this, so be grateful for that, and like just don't worry about if it's good or bad or whatever, like be grateful that you can do it. There was no like turning point or no like moment or thing I had to like really go through besides I guess not having it at certain times, you know. Like you miss something the most when you can't do it anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
So when I don't have like, you know, maybe I hurt my finger or something doing something and I can't play guitar for a while, or I'm like vacationing or something, or not, I don't have any access to guitars. Yeah. When I come back, I'm just like, oh my god, I just want to play. Oh my god, I just want to do this. So same thing with any kind of, I guess, music like that. It's like, it's just not having it and like being like, what would I do if I don't have it? And then what do I do when I have it? Yeah. I'm going to want to make use of everything.
I think it's really hard to like take that step back and be consciously grateful about it in the moment though. Yeah. Like that is really hard, I feel like.
It is.
Like to be like, dude, it's so difficult to be like I don't often, I think, like take a step back and be like even like while I'm working or whatever, right? Yeah. Like I don't often take a step back and be like, wow, like I'm really happy that I have Above the Bridge.
Yeah.
Like, well, like that.
It's important, bro.
It's
you gotta
hard,
do it, 'cause,
dude.
like, you've built this whole thing, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like it's taken time, it's taken effort. You have like I love seeing all of these on the wall because, you know, it's
Thanks,
just
dude.
like a testament to where you've come from.
Mhm.
And that's huge. Like, you just think like you wouldn't have imagined you've been here maybe in the same way 5 years ago or
No.
something. So it's like you're grateful for all those past versions of you making the choices they did to get you here.
Yeah.
And you're just going to keep making those choices to take you where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to do that. So it's like fucking amazing, you know? You
Yeah.
don't have to like, there's nothing you're fighting. There's nothing you're going against. You're just doing like what you've done. You're just continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah. That's a comforting thought. To like,
Yeah.
know there's nothing you're fighting against, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's like a very, very, very powerful,
No one's
valuable thought.
I mean, I feel like no one's actively trying to, or no force is actively trying to like stop you from doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
If anything, it's trying to help you. But like that's how much you believe and like how much the universe helps and you know all that kind of shit. But as long as you're doing what you're doing with like the right intentions, like I've been talking about this a lot with Teo, my roommate, but also people around. It's like no one who like with the right intentions who doesn't give up like fails. You know what I mean? Like,
You think so?
no, unless like outside forces like
Interesting.
occur or something, like they quit or they give
Uh-huh.
up or like they can't do it anymore. But I really think if like might not end up how you expect it to end up, but if you just like keep trying and keep doing and keep iterating and keep working on it, you're gonna learn something, and that even if that's the
Yeah.
only thing that happens, you know,
Yeah.
like you're gonna take away something from it. So yeah.
I sort of think failure is a choice.
Mm.
What I mean by that is like I think failure is impossible, and if you're still trying,
Yeah.
I think like I really do believe failure is a choice, right? Because if you try something your entire life, time and time and time again, year after year after year after year, if you're still going, you're still trying, you haven't failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you get there, you get there. If you don't, you don't. But if you die trying, you never fail.
Yeah. Or you get somewhere else, you know. But you can contextualize that as a failure depending on like what you think is a success. But it's like expanding your idea of success is huge.
I think accepting the reality that you might get somewhere else is also really, really, really important, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think where I am right now is unimaginable to 16-year-old me. I think I'm
Totally.
stoked on it, but I think, like, I didn't know what, like, this was
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know what you'd be doing. You didn't know what your music career looked like. You had no idea.
I had no idea who I would meet, who I
Yeah.
would make music with. Like, no, yeah, none of that. And you so it's like that's what I love about being in LA. Honestly, without like, is like you never really know who you're gonna meet, and not even on like a networking like, oh, who's gonna help me, but it's like you might meet like your next, you know, the person you're gonna like spend a bunch of time making music with, or you're gonna might meet like your next roommate, or like, I mean, with life in general too. But you never know what your journey is gonna look like. If you did, you wouldn't take it. At least I wouldn't.
Wow. Yeah.
I wouldn't, like, it's like I'm not gonna watch a movie I already know
Whoa.
it's gonna end.
You never know what your journey's gonna look like, and if you did, you wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, or would you?
Depends on the person, you know. Some people might, like, I feel have this, you know, maybe it's way their life is set out, like, oh, I'm gonna work this job and make it here, have a wife and kids, live here. Like, they have their whole kind of life plan set up. But like, to me, the fun of this is like playing it by ear and like seeing what happens and whoever I meet and adjusting. I don't know what the end goal of this is. I don't know if like I want to become like a very like successful musician, artist, keep coding. I don't know. Like right now I know what I want to do. It's like I want to make music and I want to also work on this other stuff for like meet friends or go check out different places around the world. But like, yeah, I don't really know like what this next year is even gonna look like, you know.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to me, because I just want to like dive into the unknown.
When you put out your new song last week, could you have like foreseen that previously? Like even the way you're rolling out music, right?
Sure.
Actively. Like I mean, Freeze Dry came out what? December, so like 4 or 5 months ago? 3 months ago?
3 months ago. I dropped 3 months.
Not a math guy.
I dropped 3 months, like it was December 1st, March 1st.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Did you even expect that? Like,
No.
was that calculated, that rollout, or like, and also
No.
like, how's the reception been to the new single and just how's everything with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, so the rollout, I really don't even know what I'm doing. So I'm just like kind of making up as I go.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I wanted to release Freeze Dry until like October. And I was like, okay, maybe I want to release that. And I didn't really realize I had an EP on my hands until like then too. And I was like, oh, I kind of have, because I was just making music just to make music. And then I was like, okay, I could try this. And slowly it kind of shaped into this project.
Yeah. So the songs were already made. They were just kind of they were like,
it's like ideas.
Revolving.
I just
Okay.
had all these ideas, and I just like, it's like, oh, these kind of make sense. And yeah, it's just been very like spur of the moment, like learning, you know. I was like, okay, I want to do a music video for this one. Did the music video for it. That was fun. Learned a lot. Learned like how much work it takes and how
Such
much
a sick
effort it
video.
is. And thank you.
Yeah.
And like learned like, you know, how to work with people better. And just like, you know, the video came out like in February. So I like kind of also learned like how much in advance I want to release it together, just like how that works. Then I didn't even do a video for Aries. I did a teaser with Something Good, and fucking Sean killed it. But it was nice to like learn, like just do a teaser and not worry about a whole video.
Yeah.
Because I just knowing what I need, what I don't need. So I wouldn't even anticipate releasing 2 songs, like if that makes sense. Like my goal last year was to like release a song like of my own.
Wow. Damn.
And it happened. I didn't even really expect it to happen.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I have like a whole EP blows my mind. Like that, and also that I'm like excited to share.
Yeah.
Because I feel very critical.
You said it's very like science fiction based.
Kind of.
Is it more of like a thematic thing? Is it story driven, or is it like a accumulation of songs of a certain period of time? Are you trying to say something specific with it?
No, I think it's like soundscape. It's like
wow,
and then more thematically. So like I realized I had a song that was like based on like freeze dry, has a lot of like freeze dried astronaut food, and a lot of it has to do with like memories too. But there's just like, it was a feeling of being in space. I don't know. And Aries is like had a lot to do with Mars. There's another song that I originally, it was like I had all these bits and pieces. I had like this beat called Mars beat. I had a beat like a beat called like Venus, and these are just, it wasn't really like on purpose. It was just like I had all these ideas because I was just reading so much science fiction. That's just like the first thing that came to my brain.
Yeah.
And then after I looked back, I was like, oh, this kind of feels like a whole project. And there's like, you know, there's references in the lyrics to like different books that like, if you read the books, maybe you'll get it, but it's not really that big of a deal. But it's just like, I'll like reference some of those books and stuff. But yeah, like the whole rollout and the whole like project itself and everything, it's just me trying. Like it's like me like learning and understanding. So it's fun to kind of do that in public, if that makes like.
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
just,
coolest thing ever, dude.
Just to like share my drafts and share like how I'm like learning and trying it as I go. Because everything from like production to mixing to writing, it's like my first passes at all of this.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like expecting any of this,
Yeah.
like no way. You know, like to release like either of these songs would have blown like my mind a year ago.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And in terms of like response, it's been cool. I mean, like I'm trying to like focus not as much on that right now. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like I'm just
That's
starting
good.
out, and like it's not really conducive to me like wanting to push forward all the time. But I love like how people have resonated with different parts and texted me about it. Like, because I know the first people who are going to be listening to my music are like my friends and family.
Yeah.
You know, so I just kind of look at that as like, okay, that's like my audience is like
Mm-hmm.
people who know me, and it's cool for them to see me do what I'm doing right now. So
Yeah.
it's just for them. Like I'm like right now I'm just like making music for my homies.
Yeah, that's cool.
Other people want to like listen and
Yeah.
join in. Like it's out there for them too.
I think one of the coolest things about putting out music right now is the ability to be able to experiment in public.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, I've always thought it's kind of cool.
I like it. Like I feel like some people sit on music a lot because they want to have like a perfect maybe moment or
Yeah.
have it come out right. But at the rate that like I'm trying to get better and keep doing stuff, like I'm not even gonna want to release these songs in like 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just trying to get it out now before I
For you to over listen to it.
over it, or like I'm just like, oh, I'm better now. Oh, I could do something, like whatever. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just like timestamps of the best I can do at that moment.
Do you often get to a place where like you feel like you're overanalyzing your music at a certain
100%,
point?
100%.
Like
Every time, bro. Every time I like. That's why like I don't know. I don't really want to mix stuff anymore. Maybe like because sometimes it's really fun to mix and I love how I sound, but
being so obsessive.
I'm just
like,
so obsessive over the
Yeah.
little things and that do matter, but it just makes me think about like I'm thinking about it way too hard.
Yeah.
And then it's lost sometimes as much as the magic. Like, yeah, I think that happened with Freeze Dry a little bit, and it's happened with Aries too, because I spend like months or 2 months mixing it / perfecting it, and then I'm just like, I don't want to listen to this shit anymore.
Yeah. And you can kind of get to a place too where you're just beating the same details in that like nobody no. That was crazy. That like nobody. That was wild.
That nobody pays attention to.
Yeah, exactly. Like details that are so small to the point where like you are literally the only person that could like possibly pick them out,
I
but
think it's still important because like everything lies in the details, like the beauty lies in like
yeah,
the little choices that people don't hear, but just makes them feels better. Like that's what mix music really is for. But yeah, I'm getting better. The more I learn, the more I'm like, okay, I should like do this amount, spend this amount of time on it and this amount of effort and energy, and then just move forward, like walk away, like I was talking about at the beginning. Like,
wow, yeah.
Just trying to like walk away from things when it's not feeling right, because you can't rush art.
No, dude.
Just ends up being so bad.
Yeah.
So it's all learning. Like everything's a learning process. This entire year has been a huge learning process for me. Like from like literally learning how to produce to like learning how to share music and what that feels like.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool, and it's been such a like joyous experience, even though it can be maybe like anxiety inducing at times. But like once you do it, I feel it's just getting easier and easier.
Yeah.
And like more fun.
And I think actively thinking about the fun too is such an important aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like I think lately I've had a lot of fun and I've been thinking about like what conscious steps can I take to take a step back and focus on making sure that I'm enjoying the things that I'm making in the moment, like finding that feeling.
Yeah.
Like that feeling is so important,
Yeah.
It's like what keeps you coming back.
Yeah, keeping it there because it can blow out. And sometimes I'm like, why am I like saying no to hang out with people because I'm just at home trying to like finish this project, because I would do that so much last year. Is I would like just be like, okay, I'm just gonna stay at home, I'm just gonna work on music, just make beats, make fucking like I don't know, just, and I've had to be like take that balance back, I think, and just change. And because like now at this point, like I'd rather not mix on like a Friday night. I'd rather like go hang out with people. But yeah, no, it's important to take a step back and see.
I think I find myself grasping for like a numeric amount of things that are like time that is properly spent. Like I don't know. I think like sometimes where my lack of balance comes from is like me looking for like numbers. Like I know it sounds weird, but it's like sometimes like I'm grasping for like guidelines.
Yeah.
Like very specific sets of rules.
Yeah.
Like I'm grasping for like on Friday it's okay for me to go out and have fun. On Monday, it is not. You know, if I'm out for more than 4 hours, that's okay. If I'm out for less than 5, that's not. You know, like, I'm grasping for like specific sets of
like
rules
you can set for yourself.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And then I question, are those even a good thing to do? You know?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel, like, because I'll do that too sometimes. I'll be like, I'm only gonna check Instagram on Saturdays and Sundays, and the rest of the week I'm not. And so, you know, it's like, okay, bro, like, shut up, like, you're not gonna like do that. But I think it's like little decisions, right? Because you're establishing rules to like help you make a decision.
I think the decisions are the important thing.
Decisions are the important thing, not the rules. Because like rules you can break, and rules shouldn't exist because there's so many other factors. But learning how to, like, decision making is like such a fascinating process to me, because it's like we kind of make them before we make them, if that makes sense. Like your subconscious is like weighing out possibilities and making a decision, and then you make the decision. That makes sense. So it's like, that's why, like, when we go back to the discipline thing, it's just like another like weight, where if you like have been reading a bunch, let's say, and like this is my case, for example, like I'll be reading and then I'll be like, okay, I'm like waiting 20 minutes for X to happen or whatever. Do I make the choice to like open up my phone and like go on like YouTube Shorts? Not that I actually go on YouTube Shorts.
YouTube Shorts
maybe
is crazy.
Or do I like open up the Power of Now? And like whatever decision you're gonna make, it's already been made, and you're just like, it's just like based on like your weights in your body of like your habits, you know. Does that make sense? Like,
how do you,
like, let's say here's an example. If you're like, if I hand you right now like an apple or like a Lamborghini, you're probably gonna take the Lamborghini, right?
Yeah.
But like, if I gave you that same option when you were like 3 days in the desert, like starved, like no roads, like you don't have anything, you're gonna take the apple, maybe. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't. That's like kind of it's a bad hypothetical, but the point of it is like your weights change. So if you're like, and because we have so many things that are like our weights that are helping us calculate what decision to make, depending, like, you might choose to like go on your phone versus do something else, but it's about those, like, building those weights and building those choices, like, rather than building a rule, because like you're not going to want to, the rule is just something like thing you implied on yourself, you know, or imposed on yourself, rather than being like, you're not changing the actual mechanism of the decision making process, which is like the important part. If that makes sense.
What's the mechanism?
Like the weights that happen, like the like how you attribute, like if you're like, I don't know, if you're super hungry or something, it's like you're gonna choose to order food rather than like not, I guess, or you cook, or but like what's making you decide to order food versus cook in? Maybe you don't have time, maybe you don't have energy, or you don't want to do something. Like those are the factors to control, you know. It's like energy is a huge one. It's like like you're gonna make a different decision if you have the energy to make that like to do that thing, you know. But if you don't have the energy, you're gonna like do maybe the worst decision.
So setting up the lifestyle to make, like, that's conducive to good decisions.
Like health and like like that's why it's like when you build discipline or build habits in other areas of your life that support you, maybe in like your creative one, or one that is maybe needs help, you know. It's like if you're eating healthy and sleeping healthy, you're probably going to be exercising healthy too, or you're able to, or like you're going to have a healthy relationship with your friends or with your work or with whatever.
It's kind of like if you're trying to like not smoke or not drink or not spend money, and then you say like, I'm gonna go out and just not spend money, like you're probably gonna end up doing all three of those things. You know? I probably but it depends. Maybe you're someone like you're made a choice, like you just don't do that, and then when you go out, it's like not hard for you to not make that decision of like not spending money or whatever you like don't want to do. But
it's all like environment's the only thing you can set up.
Yeah.
You can't like willpower yourself over something.
Yeah.
You know.
It's about like setting up the environment to where like it's almost like setting up the environment to where like the good choice is the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah. No, literally.
You know.
It's like no, that's the most clear option to you. It's not like you're like doing it because you're telling yourself it's going to be better for you in the long run or something.
Yeah.
It's just like that's the best option for me right now.
Yeah.
It's hard though. It's very hard.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you had one message you could spread with your music over the course of the next Ayush output, like if there was one thing that you could say when you know your music's out there, you're done, or maybe while you're still going, what would it be?
Damn. I think the only thing is like that like anyone can do anything that they want to do. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that I started making music like post college and I'm doing it like, so yeah, it's never too late to start. That's I guess the main message in a maybe more elaborate way. But yeah,
I think it's really cool that you like, I don't know, I think it's very much the norm to somebody's like, oh, like started when I was 20 and then I just kept going but I think it's really cool that you kind of like worked your way back into it. It's sick.
No, appreciate that. I mean, it's due to people like you and you know because like I also met like you guys coming out of senior year of college, you know, and then I was like seeing like, oh my god, there's so many creative people like actually pursuing it and going for it. I remember we had like one of our first conversations when I asked you about like what Above the Bridge meant to you or what it was, and I was like, holy shit, like he's really doing it, like cool, Lance is really doing it, like, you know, everyone. I was like just super impressed and inspired. So yeah, man, thank you,
bro. Yeah, ditto. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Yeah, that was a really good one, man. I really appreciate it. That was like, that one, a bunch of cool fucking directions. That was really sick, dude. Yeah, but I think your story's sick. I think a lot of people resonate with it.
I hope so.
Hell yeah. Tell them where they can find you, where they can listen, where they can stream Aries and Freeze Ride.
Ayush, Ayush. My parents gave me that name and I love that name, so that's where you can find me.
That's beautiful. Hell yeah. All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Music matters.
Yeah.